right, so we're live once again. Here we are in the town center of Canyon Lake. I'm here with Paul Kakis. He's running for city council for Canyon Lake. As you know, we got an election coming up November 3rd. You get 3 votes. You get to pick 3 different individuals to be your representative here in the community. We're going to answer a few questions, that have been submitted to me over the last few weeks to Paul. But before we begin, I want Paul just to give a little introduction, talk a little bit about himself, why he decided to run for city council. So go ahead, Paul. Tell us a little bit about why you're running for city council, a little bit about your background, and from there.
Well, I'll be happy to. Thank you so much. For those of you who know me, I've been a longtime resident of Canyon Lake. I moved here in 1995. I was really drawn to the uniqueness of this community. It's really like no other. I've enjoyed being part of it. I've been an AYSO soccer coach for many years and a referee, so I may have coached some of your kids now who are probably in adulthood. I participated in POA activities and events and city council events way back when, probably before most of you moved here. Since that time, I've devoted a lot of my time to working with kids, and part of my work has been with the Lambs Fellowship Church in the city of Lake Elsinore. I have a foundation that raises money for children in need with disabilities, etc., and that's really where I focused the last 10 years of my time. I see this as an opportunity at the right place and the right time to now pivot, to devote some of my time, some of the experience that I didn't have then that I have now to contribute to the growth and the feeding and caring of Canyon Lake, and that's why I'm here today.
Perfect. I love it. So we're going to go over a few questions that have been submitted to me. You can interject, add some things to them. You talked a little bit about this throughout your campaign, just the involvement of grants that are needed and whatnot. So unfortunately, Sacramento, once again, continues to get involved in local issues. As you are aware, the city has taken steps to be compliant in regards to our affordable housing requirements.
Sure.
Where do you stand with these and the directions that we have taken? Do you agree with them as far as the city, and what steps would you suggest?
Well, since I don't have intimate knowledge of everything that the city's doing, I do know that with respect to question number 1, with obviously Sacramento for state grants and obviously federal grants, and applications of those grants can be quite tenuous, right? If you miss dotting an I or crossing a T, you can guarantee that you're not going to get it. So I think from that standpoint that we need to continue, and I think it was very astute of those, maybe it was yourself, that started the grant program, the grant writing program, to continue, because we need to be able to utilize those funds in a number of different ways. In addition to that, I'd recommend that we may even want to employ a service to help us with that grant writing capability to make sure that we're doing it properly and we're going through the process and have a better chance, obviously, of receiving those grants. If anybody's ever done grant writing, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
It's interesting because here in Canyon Lake, and you've even talked about this, we're a unique city because we only have, I think it's like 5,000 parcels, and we're already pretty much developed out. I think there's only maybe 150, 200 left. So when we had to meet the requirements from Sacramento in regards to affordable housing, it was an extremely difficult challenge. The inner workings of that was tough. What kind of knowledge in your professional background could you bring to maybe help solve some of those problems? Be creative, think outside the box. Because when you have when you have a glass on you from Sacramento, it's tough to meet those requirements, especially because we don't have a lot to expand here. So in your past experience, have you had anything dealing with that and how to be creative or come up with solutions in working with government entities?
Well, I have. Obviously, I've worked with the city of Anaheim, and I've worked with the city of Lake Elsinore to provide what I want to say, a cohesiveness between their Downtown Merchants Association, local city government, parks and recreation communities, to bring together the commonalities, if you will, to work on specific problems, right? I've never had experience specifically with low-income housing, but that doesn't mean that I don't possess the skill sets to be able to contribute to a project like that. But as far as understanding the way government works, how to assemble a team, how to bring together people, and to provide knowledge and oversight, and more importantly, provide strategic planning, I have plenty of knowledge. A little bit about me, I'm a healthcare professional. So I work in an environment where forethought and critical thinking is a matter of life and death.
Yes.
In addition to that, I'm very good at contingency planning. So I can bring those skill sets here, and I can take my business acumen and knowledge to augment what you've already done.
Paul, I think you'll love this question then, because this is right up your alley. Being in healthcare profession and seeing that COVID-19 has impacted us all, can you tell us what the city has done well that you like to address the pandemic, and maybe what you would have done or will do in a situation like we have in front of us?
Well, the city has done a great job in adapting to a situation in uncommon times, right? You can't have a certain predictability about the virus, how it's going to interact, how it's going to spread. And I know that the state guidelines have kind of put everybody in a similar basket, if you will, right? Enforcement is very difficult, and there are people that want to wear masks, people that don't want to wear masks. There are people that get a visceral reaction when they see others not wearing masks. But what I think that the city did very well and upfront and timely is code enforcement went into action. They notified businesses. They stayed to the guidelines that came from the county as well as the state, and they acted on them, all right? And I think they were very reasonable with local businesses in terms of operational opportunities. They didn't shut them down completely, and they gave, what I want to say, thought to how it would impact them and what would be acceptable. Absolutely. They did a great job.
Yeah, okay, I think that's a good answer, to reflect a little bit, and you would relate because of the importance on the public, side of it with dealing with health. The city went out, made face masks for people. You might remember that. They delivered it out. The city issued permits so people could go ahead and do dining outside. I think that was important. So some of these things that you understand, being the background that you have, I think is so crucial when you're looking at pandemics like this. This leads to the other question.
And if I could add on to that.
No, of course, absolutely.
So, a lot of people don't want the government to tell them what to do.
Yes.
And I can understand that. That's why we live in a free society. That's why we live in America. It's our choice. Right? But I just wanted people to understand to be, conscious of others, right? Use good judgment. If you feel that you're at risk, right, wear a mask. If you don't want exposure, stay away from crowds, right? And you should expect that of others as well. Now, we're not going to get everybody, unfortunately. But I would say for those who are worried or in the risk category, and those others that are not in the risk category, just be conscientious of each other's,
Absolutely. I think that's a good message for all of us to take. And by the way, we are social distancing, so we're taking it. The other question that we have is campaigns are it's a very interesting time. You got propositions, you got, national politics, you got the local stuff, the county. A lot would say how you campaign is how you govern. How do you plan, if elected, to work with others in the community, regionally, as a council member for Canyon Lake?
Sure. Well, for me, in answer to that question, first of all, how am I going to work as a councilor in Canyon Lake? One of the things that I want to bring to the table is better communication between city government and the residents. And nothing against what you're already doing, but I think I can bring an element to this and augment what the city has already put together. Because, by the way, I think the website redesign, all of that, is better for the people that are looking for information. Because in the past, it's very hard to find, and not always everybody gets the same information the same way. I like to be able to be the type of council person that helps bring technology and automation in order to reach more people effectively, so that we can not only get their feedback, which is important to make sure that we're governing properly, and that we're understanding the needs and the issues of the community. In addition to that, I'm one vote, right? I need to work cooperatively with the entire team. I'm not a disruptor, but I do ask questions, right? So I want to make sure that I have an understanding of what's already on the table and what's already in the works. I certainly like the chance to review some of that, but I'm not an obstructionist, right? I understand that it's a small city. So Canyon Lake's very unique, right? So like Bear Creek is a development in a city, Canyon Lake is a city in a development, right? So the rules are a little bit different. You have to not only work with city government, you have to work with the Property Owners Association, we have to work with the residents, and we have to cooperate. So my message to all of you and answer questions in a cooperative manner.
I think that's important. If elected to the city council, what regional board do you think you would want to sit on, and how would you be able to bring that experience back to the community?
Well, there's a couple ones that I'm interested in. One, I'd like to work on the economic development board, both for small business, right?
Yeah, not local, regionally. So we sit on.
But like the water board or the.
No, each city gets representation on what we call regional boards throughout Riverside County. There's about 6 of them that we get to serve, and we bring something to each of those tables. Do you know any of those boards that you want to serve on, or any background in it?
I really don't.
So one of the boards, like for instance, I sit on RTA, which is Riverside Transportation Agency. I'm also associate delegate for RCTC, which is Riverside County Transportation Council. So I bring a background of transparency because, I'm sorry, not transparency, but commuting, transportation, because I drive 32,000 miles a year going in and out to Orange County. So I especially wanted to serve on anything transportation related. Larry Green serves on RCA, so he handles any type of BLM land issues. Jordan serves on WRCOG. Casey serves on our water, our local water board stuff.
Sure.
So out of that, now that you know which boards are out there, anything that pertains to your background and something that you would want to serve on?
Well, anywhere where I could take my business strengths and acumen and strategic planning there, right? Also, if there's health and human services with my medical background, I might be able to provide that kind of support as well.
Right.
So.
That's great. I'm not being rude. I'm just reading some of the questions.
No, that's okay.
Another question is, and I asked this to all the candidates, so you'll be number 3 getting this question. As you know, I've been going around to the community asking folks their input on legalizing or allowing dispensaries to come to the city of Canyon Lake. As we all know, marijuana is illegal in the state of California,
right.
But in Canyon Lake specifically, we do not allow the sale of marijuana. So what's your stance on that? How do you feel? I know you come from a background of health, so give us a little input on your insight.
Well, I mean, there are direct health benefits for those that suffer with multiple diseases and multiple disease states. My wife is one of them. Unfortunately, she suffers with MS. If you've ever taken care of a person with a disease and a critical illness, you have to look at it both medically and holistically.
Right.
Okay? That's one point of view. The other point of view is if you allowed to have marijuana sales in Canyon Lake, how does that impact the community? What kind of element does it bring in here? Does it decrease our public safety, etc.? How do we regulate it? And the other thing is do we look at it as a legal business, because it is a legal business, and the other issue is that we need sales tax revenue. Right. So one of the things that we always talk about is how do we improve, but how do we also augment some of the shortfalls with the budget, and where would we find that, right? And how do we develop that? So I'm for legal businesses, right? I'm for the building of businesses opportunity that add to that sales tax revenue that bolster economic conditions here in Canyon Lake. And I'm also for taking a look at it with the rest of the council members and putting it to the residents and taking a vote. It very much has to be a community decision.
Absolutely, and that's why I've taken it so seriously and going door to door, because the response is unbelievable. Some people are, hey, Canyon Lake, I'm for marijuana. I'm not for it in Canyon Lake because it's such a small city. It's only one town center. So we're going to get that vote next month. How would you vote on that?
I couldn't tell you right now because I haven't had the opportunity to poll the residents, right? I mean, I wish I had that information. I know there's a survey out there that you've already done, so I'd be interested in what the survey says.
If the survey was inconclusive and you had to take it upon yourself to make that decision as a council member, where would you stand on it if that was the case?
So if that was the case,
because we all represent a group of people, right? We all have, whether you're Casey or Larry or Jordan or whoever, we all have people that we hang out with just like you and your friends.
Sure.
So if we're not out talking to the community like I'm doing right now, going door to door, then we have to make that decision based upon our sphere. So you represent a group of people that you know. So out of that insight, maybe we'll put it that way, would you feel that your people are leaning more towards allowing it or not, or do you think it's still evenly split?
I think in Canyon Lake, at this point it's evenly split, but again, I don't have all the data.
Right.
You have a mixed group of people here that have very different feelings on the subject, And unless I have that information, I can't answer you yes or no. Like I said, I'm for legal businesses, right? I'm for building our tax base and providing incremental tax revenue to the city to make up for shortfalls in its budget. Now that decision should be made with the council and with the majority of the residents weighing in to come up with whether that's a yes or a no.
Absolutely. One of the other questions that have come up is this idea of incorporating or not. As you know, we've been established. We're about ready to sell. Congratulations, Canyon Lake. You're about ready to sell celebrate your 30th year anniversary coming up in December. So what's your thoughts on this concept of disincorporating? How would that look? Or are you against it? Or are you for it? Where's your stance on that?
So I don't know if people really understand what is involved with incorporating and unincorporating, let's call it, or it's not de-incorporated,
Right.
unincorporated, okay?
Unincorporated, yep.
So, and I don't know how much time I've had, but I've done a lot of research on that. So, the reason why the city incorporated in the first place was obviously to protect development around it and property values inside of it, okay? And then the tax assessments that they're in line, okay? So the risk that you have, because you say, what do we do city anywhere? The POA does everything, right? Because a lot of people don't know where the POA ends or the city begins, or where the city ends and POA begins, right? That's why sometimes it's tenuous between city government and the property owners association. But back specifically to your question. If you unincorporate, then you're subject to the rules of the county, okay? That means that development is no longer in your jurisdiction. You can't regulate it, okay? So let's say that the county has land behind your house and they decide they want to put a pig farm in, right? Or they have mineral rights and they want to start drilling for oil. Now these are wild, exaggerations, okay? But my point is that you no longer get to regulate the space around it. That's the biggest thing about unincorporated. And then you're subjected to property tax, subject to possible property devaluation for that as well. So that's what everybody.
Yeah, it comes back to local control. Just
Exactly.
like what we've been talking about. Local control is so key, and that's why, when we serve not only here locally but on those regional boards that I was talking about, we're dealing with stakeholders throughout Riverside County on a day-to-day basis. Whether it's a partnership with Menifee on public safety, on Lake Elsinore. So I'm right there with you on the importance of local control and keeping that there. Most people don't understand the inner workings of it. So I want to just kind of wrap it up, let you have a couple minutes to tell people why they should be voting for you. Again, folks, we got an election coming up November 3rd. We get to vote for 3 candidates. Paul is one of those candidates. So please conclude, tell us a little bit why we should be voting for you.
Well, first of all, I'm humbled to be here, and I thank you for all of your questions. And I hope that I answered them thoroughly. And if not, you can look at our website, and it's kakis4council@gmail.com, and certainly send me more questions. I'm happy to take them. I've been a longtime resident of the community. I've said that already. I like to be a sensible agent of change. I am appreciative of everything that the board has done and the continuation of that work. I'm not here to dismantle all that. I'm trying to take somebody that has a very full plate, okay? I take care of a wife with a disease. I take care of a mother with Alzheimer's. I have a foundation for special needs kids. I work with the church. I volunteer my time with another city, okay? And I have very big shoulders. And when this opportunity came up and people encouraged me to run, I thought now is the time for me to be able to contribute directly back to my community. I have critical thinking. I have a strategic background. I know about finance. And I just think I can bring that knowledge to bear with the sensitivity of my environment and do something good for the residents. And I really want to be a voice of the people. I want to help implement systems that allow us to communicate more effectively with the residents so that we come up with a set of goals that's important and specific to what we're doing here, not just for today, not just patchwork to get us through the next fiscal year, but for those families that want to put a stake in the ground for the future. This decade, the next decade, and the future of the success of Canyon Lake. For my son who lives here and raising his family and his kids and so on and so on. And if we don't get a handle and become more fiscally responsible, look to expand the city in a very tight, small community, be understanding of the environment, what the residents want, and more importantly, try to provide something that makes sense and that takes for the care and feeding all the residents of the community. That's why you should vote for me.
I love it. Thank you so much, Paul. Again, thank you everyone who watched. You heard it from him, Paul. He's going to be on the ballot. And tune in tomorrow. We're also going to be meeting with your mayor, Jordan Ehrenkranz, and also Jim as well. Same thing, asking questions, trying to get as much information out as we can due to COVID. I can't thank you enough for being with me. I really appreciate it. Donna, thank you so much for doing the camera and helping us out with that. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I will send them over to Paul. Thanks again for the time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.